Why is Of the Trees' music so good, and what's the science behind it? I think that Of the Trees does a phenomenal job of showing how simple yet effective sounds can be, and he really opened my eyes to how subjective and objective music really can be. Today we'll be diving into the reasons why Of the Trees' music resonates with so many people. If this video gets to 1,000 likes, we'll continue this series and dive into the bass, sound design, and production techniques of the Trees. And if you like the video, YouTube will recommend these types of videos to you, so it's a great way to train your algorithm. Let's start with the background elements. Most producers treat their background elements with a lot less care than they do the drums, the bass, or the melodic elements. And at surface value, that totally makes sense. People are not typically jamming out to that reverbed echo vocal you have in the background of your track. Of the Trees does a phenomenal job of showing how important which element you use is. For example, he uses owl sounds, cicadas, and other foresty elements to immerse you into this magical forest, while leaving tons of room for the drums and the bass. Let's start with the owl sound. What's awesome about owls is that they're actually just a sine wave for the most part, with very little harmonics. So this means that owl sounds clutter very little of your mix, occupy very little of the frequency spectrum, and are a very immersive and recognizable sound. And by the way, you can have total control of an owl sound by getting a sine wave and messing with the fine tuning by just a little bit. After that, you just add some reverb, maybe a little bit of distortion to make it a little more real, and you're pretty much 90% of the way there. So you could make your own owl sounds if you want, or you can just grab some from Splice and call it a day. But a great contrast to owl sounds that will keep us in a forest are cicadas. Cicadas tend to occupy the 5,000 hertz range and up, while occasionally dipping down to 3,000. But notice that if we have cicadas and owls, not only are we immersed in our forest, but we're completely leaving the mid-range open for anything, for drums, bass, melodic elements, and we're giving everything room to breathe. So objectively, these decisions are very smart and a great way to stand out as an artist. To close off the ambient portion of this video, Of the Trees taught me that artists need to have a certain palette. They need to understand the types of sounds that will help create the vibe they're trying to do. For example, Rez has all these eerie sound effects and scary horror movie-esque sounds in her music to immerse her audience in the world she's creating. What Of the Trees uses, he doesn't just use foresty elements, he'll use something as simple as a triangle or some kind of hypnotic bell or smooth elements, which provide such a nice contrast to the aggressive basses he usually creates. This brings us to his melodic elements. I love how Of the Trees' melodic elements feel alive, and you can really hear this in the owl song, those chords at the beginning, or even just the two notes that he oscillates back and forth on in Windhorse. They are a very robotic sound, and yet they feel so alive. I used to be under the impression that the main way to make a synth sound alive, you had to mess with the velocity, you had to change when the notes were playing, and yet we're not really hearing that in that synth sound in Windhorse that is playing, but it still sounds so alive because of the elements around it and the vibe he's creating. So that's something I never thought about before really listening to Of the Trees' music, is how the elements around your synth have so much impact in making your synth sound alive. And real quick, the best ways to support this channel, totally free. Please listen to my music. Lit Rooster just came out. It's a super awesome track. You can hear it on Spotify or SoundCloud. Links in the description. And I highly recommend subscribing or liking this video because that helps a lot as well. And this is probably the coolest plug of all time, but I'm actually starting a music retreat near the mountains of Lake Arrowhead. It's about 90 minutes from Los Angeles. It'll be an experience that brings together scenery, good food, education, and just overall making amazing music, escaping from work or our job. It could be a 2-day thing. It could be a couple weeks. If you are interested in something like that, there's a Google form in the description. You can fill that out to sign up or just to get more information. Think of it as like a tailored Airbnb for producers. Next up is song structure. I'd say that the grand majority of EDM artists go for a verse, build, drop, break song structure, kind of like a wave where things are cool, they build up, they explode, they calm down, and they're cool again. And unfortunately, this structure is really popular and everyone does it. And I think that's so lame to box so many artists in this type of structure. And I say that as someone that does it myself. What Of the Trees really emphasizes emphasized for me is that music can just be a journey. You don't have to revisit previous sections of your song. A great example of this is at around the 2 minute and 30-second mark of the Owl song. You'll notice that there's this random breakdown that Of the Trees did because he probably just felt like it, and it sounds awesome. Some of these sections can sound really like they're not part of the song, and yet it totally works. It sounds awesome, and everyone loves them. No one really complains like, oh, I
felt like I really snapped out of the song there, and it really ruined the experience for me because it didn't fit exactly the song structure I want.
I think a great way to be an artist, be a human being, is to stick a middle finger to the typical song structure and just do your own thing. There's plenty more to discuss with Of the Trees, like drums and bass and all that good stuff. But like I said, if we want to dive deeper, make sure to hit the like button. If we get to 1,000, we'll go right into the bass sound design and the drums and all that good stuff. But all in all, Of the Trees sticks out to me as a producer because his production choices and mixing are simple but effective. And I think that's where the objectivity comes from. He also has an overall vibe that he aims for and achieves really, really well. And he's taught me that you want to take up the least amount of space and create the biggest impact you can. It's objective that he takes very little space and yet creates a very big impact, but the decisions he makes in the end of the day are all subjective. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Is music more objective, subjective? Can it be both? Because they're literally opposites. They mean different things. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment of what you would like to see. I'd love to make a video about it, and feel free to follow me on Instagram. Oh, and most importantly, listen to my music, please. Honestly, that's what makes me the happiest, is when people stream my music. So that's it for today. Peace.